Good morning. We are live on Forging the Falcons on our regularly scheduled Monday mornings following a Falcons Sunday win over the 49ers to even their record at 3-3. I am Scott Kennedy, your host in Atlanta. I'm joined by Nick Kendall from Seattle, so we are coast to coast in our coverage. Nick, how are you doing this morning, my friend?
Hey, doing pretty well. Feeling pretty good. Excited for the week ahead. What does Scott and Nick do? Two normal, basic white guys. Talk the weather before we get going. We had the 88-degree day in Seattle yesterday, which broke the former high, which was 72 on this day previously, which is significant. So a little creepy, scary times out here, but we have cold weather and rain on the way.
And we've got the desert variants going on here where it's 40 in the morning and 85 in the afternoons. So it's but a good weekend and a great win for the Atlanta Falcons. Want to say good morning to some folks who have come in. AE says he's first. Dave has come in on YouTube. Aiden says good morning. This team is good and it has me excited. Terry Ocean Boy Martin coming in. He is all red with the exclamation points today. And Michael coming in. He says, "Hey, my guy Troy Anderson is a beast." Michael, he is a beast. He had some rookie moments we can talk about a little bit, but that's okay. I'm willing to take some of the rookie mistakes to have the upside in athleticism and the jump going up through that direction. Terry says 3-3 through 6 games could easily be 4-2. Could easily be 5-1. And then you flip it around, it could easily be 2-5. There's some you're playing those close games, but as I said over the summer, as I was preaching doom and gloom with this team because of the lack of ability to address some of the problems on the lines of scrimmage, I think that Arthur Smith is doing a fantastic job, and the record might not reflect it this year. My fears about that, Nick, are gone. They're pretty much gone. If you don't realize what a good coach Arthur Smith is right now to have this team 3-3 and competitive in every single game, then that's on you, and you're going to be in the minority because Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot are working wonders with this team to have them at 3-3 with $100 million of payroll.
Yeah, 28 points against this 49ers defense, which before yesterday, I mean, that might be the biggest total they've given up this season. They've been called one of the best units in the NFL, and the Falcons made it not look easy. There are some numbers here that reflect the Falcons, playing maybe not replicable football. Winning the turnover battle 3-0, 9 for 14 on third downs. Typically things that will regress more to the mean. Even if you are better in those areas than other teams. But really good win, good team. And got to say, the calls for Arthur Smith, not that there were really any, but to have tampered down some. I think also maybe the calls for Desmond Ridder should maybe be quiet as well. I mean, not that Marcus Mariota had a incredible game, but I mean, it was pretty damn good. 13 for 14, the rushing ability. Took a couple sacks where it was close. Maybe it could have been a little bit better. But about as good of a game as you could have possibly hoped, considering the limitations. And man, I've said it before, but the design of this scheme, how they're running it right now is awesome, and I can't wait for Cordell Patterson to get back in there.
Yeah, I wanna show a play. It was the second play of the game, and anybody that's watched this, you should probably know. What have I said right now? Who is the liability on the offensive line of the 5 across the front?
It's a center.
It's a center, Dahlman, a little
Dahlman.
bit. I said head up against the 300-pound, 300-plus guy. I think he's getting pushed back a little too much. Caleb McGarry has been terrific, and Eli Wilkinson has been an absolute revelation at guard. As far as the upgrade that you got from Jalen Mayfield, who was arguably the worst offensive lineman in the NFL last year, and someone's got to be the worst, and he was from his pass grade on Pro Football Focus, he was the worst. But I want you to watch this play. It'll start up immediately because I had to restart my computer before we started here. But it was the second play of the game, and I'm going to pause it here real quick. Okay, so if you look at this play, second play of the game, it's 2nd and 8, as you can tell. Lined up, it's a double tight front, single setback. And I want you to watch Drew Dahlman at center because what we've said is he has a tendency. This play for me basically epitomizes the good and the bad, but it wasn't ugly. It was a good play of the Falcons' offensive line. So on the snap, you see Dahlman's immediately back 3-4, from the line of scrimmage. He's immediately back. His back foot is 3.5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. That takes what is supposed to be a stretch play off tackle, and it makes Tyler Algier push wide left much sooner than he wants to. But that's okay. He's still engaged. So, he's not just getting beat. He's still in front of his guy, but he's getting pushed back. Now, I want you to do the same thing, and I want you to watch the left guard right next to him get a free run. Would you say Fred Warner's a pretty good linebacker in this league?
Probably the best. If it's not him, it's Micah Parsons, but they're like the opposite ends of the spectrum. It's Ichiro Suzuki versus Barry Bonds or something.
Watch, different types.
Yeah.
Watch what Eli Wilkinson, second play of the game, does to Fred Warner as he gets a free run to the second level.
Ugh.
That's pushing him back, and I don't care how good a linebacker is. If you get a 300-pounder with good feet, a free run and squares him up, your linebacker's in trouble. But for me, that play, and to be fair, this was the second play of the game because I watched this. As I'm watching this, I'm like, this is the play that I just want to show. Basically, this is it. This is how close this line is to becoming just absolutely elite because Eli Wilkinson and Caleb McGarry have stepped their games up so much. Now, again, one of my concerns is head up right there. Boom. Okay, you see Tyler Algier has to bounce it out, but then Eli Wilkinson, we didn't see any of this last year. We saw Fred Warner coming free, and as that play is then stretched to the left, it's dropped for 2 yards. Instead, Eli Wilkinson gets out there. Jake Matthews has his guy. You see Parker Hesse drives his guy out wide. Kyle Pitts has done a good job blocking. He didn't have a whole lot to do here, but he helps shield his guy off here with Lindstrom. And Eli Wilkinson just absolutely buries. Look at Matthews in the left side of that offensive line. It is an absolute thing of beauty. If you're catching this on falconspodcast.com later, check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/Scott Kennedy, and just watch that play. It was, to me, that play kind of epitomized the good and the bad. And to be fair, I watched Dahlman a lot from the rest of the game on, and he wasn't getting pushed back like that right off the bat nearly as often. But it really is my only concern on the offensive line right now.
I mean, obviously you still have, God bless you, I'm a little jealous here, all your starters from the beginning of the year still playing, where the Broncos might be out 4 of their 5, which is insane. But the offensive line has been playing great. I mean, Jake Matthews is fine, but having fine at left tackle is super fine if everybody else is performing well. You mentioned it, Lindstrom's been amazing. Lindstrom should be honestly knocking on the door of the conversation of one of the best 3 guards in football with how he's played this season. So it's been great. And one of my big takeaways from this game is you out 49er the 49ers. You will come away with the Falcons come away with 150 rushing yards. They hold the 49ers to 50. I mean, you don't see that type of disparity. Now, I know the 49ers are really banged up. Trent Williams is out. The running backs are their third running back in or something. But still, a 100-yard discrepancy against the 49ers, where a team that they live with the run game. It's incredible. And once the 49ers can't run, what happens? Jimmy Garoppolo starts coughing up the football. So really good job. And we're talking a lot about the offense, but the defense. I mean, they gave up 14 points in the first 20 minutes of the game and 0 after that. Phenomenal.
Yeah,
Phenomenal.
They made a nice adjustment because the only success the 49ers were having was on the screen and an underneath game. Mm-hmm. I see Terrell's name being used in vain. This many targets for Ayuk. One of them's a screenplay. Yeah. One of them that wasn't a target. That was a screenplay to Ayuk where you're allowed to block before the ball's even thrown. It's just a well-designed play. They sent the running back out in the slot. He goes for Terrell. And Troy Anderson is late getting over in order to get that under. He comes underneath as Terrell stuck out. That's not a target on Terrell. Come on, let's be fair about this. Yeah. let's see. Jay Davis coming in says we showed out yesterday. Great win. And, I don't want to hear any excuses. We knew coming in the 49ers were banged up and we're missing a lot of players. So, by the end of this game, the Falcons were playing with, their last available. I joked, I put on Twitter, they're going to need Avery Williams to switch back over and play defensive back by the time this game is over. I was like, this has to be into consideration. You're running out there with Mike Ford. AJ Terrell was out. Casey Hayward looked like he hurt his shoulder fairly significantly. I haven't seen an update on him yet. As Skyline comes in, he says, I hope the injuries to AJ and Hayward are not serious or miss any games. AJ says he's fine. It was precautionary. It's a long, so, which I'm okay with. Obviously, it helps when you get the win. But I think AJ is going to be okay. And Mr. Smith comes in on YouTube. He says, when Patterson comes back, it's going to be ugly. He's going to love having that space open, isn't he? And Jason on YouTube, he says, Marcus had a clean game. He was incredibly effective in an unconventional NFL way. The efficiency and his ability to run that read option, Nick, was chef's kiss.
I mean, you had the 49ers in a bind with that, which does not happen pretty often with that front seven. So really great game from Marcus Mariota. I've been impressed. Honestly, this thought creeped in my head yesterday, and I haven't been able to get rid of it. And it makes me a little guilty to even think it or utter it out loud. But would the Broncos be in a far better position if they just would have signed Marcus Mariota to a 2-year deal with how he's playing right now? Kept all the assets and revitalized that guy with some athleticism there. I mean, he's been playing great football. The Kyle Pitts touchdown too was, we're talking a lot about his athleticism and the ability as an extension of the run game, which was great, but that was his third or fourth read to get to that Kyle Pitts one, and he delivered a bullet in the red zone touchdown to a tight end, man. 2 of them in this game. Talk about getting some monkeys off your back. But great game from Mariota, great game from the team. Overall, Brandon Ayuk had a good one. Maybe there's some not incredible tackling from the defense, which, I mean, you're talking about Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. That's what those guys do, so it's not shocking. But overall, man, I don't have many critiques on this Falcons game. I thought they had a pretty darn good game. The only one where I was like, oh, you got to be a little better there. AJ Terrell almost causing the touchback after his fumble. Finish the play. My heart was beating fast on that one because I've seen that one too many times. But
well, exactly, Nick. That's actually part of my notes. I said, a lucky bounce going the Falcons' way, a TD for Hawkins. Jalen Hawkins, Jalen on the spot right there. But how often have we seen this Atlanta Falcons franchise have the ball just bounce this far the other way? I mean, like the game that shall not be mentioned, it was, all you hear is one number. Well, 2 numbers, the score.
Yeah.
There was probably 40 plays, literally, not 40, but I'll say 20. If any one of those goes the other direction, it's a different story. It's a different outcome. This is the kind of ball that bounces out of bounds for the Atlanta Falcons. It just does. I said there are alpha franchises, and then there's Falcons, Detroit Lions, historically Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Cardinals, Seahawks. They're in that group too, where stuff just goes wrong. And the ball stayed in this time. The ball's bouncing the right direction, and you kind of make your own breaks. As Peace said, we're going to change the daggum culture around here. We're no more of this stuff, no more excuses. And that's one of the things that I like about this, Nick, is I said last year they could have done a better job of managing expectations. To hell with that. They're not about managing expectations. They're about no excuses. We've got our jobs. We're going to be here. We've got the backing. No excuses, not from anybody, not from us, not from this team. And frankly, I love it. And maybe that's how the ball ends up bouncing the right direction.
Absolutely. And, also do have to say at least we'll see what happens with Hayward, but no significant injuries so far. Sometimes who ends up being the best teams in the NFL are the ones that just, they roll sixes constantly. Yahtzee on the injury front. So far, knock on wood, I mean, missing Cordell Patterson. That's the big one right now, but not really season ending. So Michael Ronquillo coming in here over on YouTube. Happy belated once again, Michael. Hope you had a good birthday week. Saying good morning, Scott and Nick on Forging the Falcons. Congratulations on the Falcons win against the 49ers. Falcons now to 3-3. I feel like half the NFL is about to be 3-3. Hopefully that's true after tonight, after the Broncos beat the Chargers. But, you're right in the thick of things. Tampa Bay looks extremely vulnerable. Carolina might be the worst team in football. And, who's the other? The Saints. look feisty, maybe. That's one where you got to watch out there. That's one game you really wish you could have back, I'm sure, given what you know right now. But Falcons definitely have a chance to be feisty and make the playoffs this year.
And Roderick Cook coming in. Roderick hit me up on Twitter already this morning. And just a reminder to come join us, Roderick. Appreciate you being here. He says, Morning, Scott, Nick. I love that game. Just shows what good coaching can do. Again, there's at the beginning of the season, the Falcons blew that game against the Saints, and people like, oh, same old Falcons. I'm like, no. That makes them 7-3 in one-score games. This isn't the same old Falcons. They are winning the close games. This is a good coaching staff. They make mistakes. They all do. They're going to make some mistakes, and they're going to wish they had some things back, but they learn from it and get better. And the team stays behind them, which I really love. So good morning, Roderick. Also want to say a big shout out to Paul Jones coming in with some stars. Thank you very much. Help support the show. Just a reminder that the number one way to support our show is through super chats on Facebook, on YouTube, and stars on Facebook. So thank you, Paul, for getting us started like that. Rich Schaefer comes in. Sounds like Broncos fans. As concerned as you were about the Falcons before the season, they're making Bronco fans a little jealous right now. Want to swap O-lines. Rich, I said after the third week, there isn't a single you can take all your starters that are healthy. There isn't a one, not a one. And it's not even really a hard debate. Broncos offensive lineman I'll trade for a Falcons O-lineman right now. And that is a huge, huge difference in this Falcons team right now from last year is their ability. They changed centers, Drew Dahlman, and they swapped out a converted journeyman right tackle to left guard who's been playing great. And as a unit, they're 5 steps better. They're so much better as a unit. I'm gonna have to find out the offensive line coach's name and give him a shout out. I don't know his name. I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna know because they are just playing so well.
And just from a system impact, how much do you give credit to the shift of having a quarterback with some mobility? I mean, your rush lanes have to change, the types of plays, the situations that you're in constantly. I mean, being able to look good as an offensive lineman on 3rd and 5 is significantly different than 3rd and 15, 3rd and 16, which I feel like Mariota, I mean, he took 2 sacks in this game, but only for 8 yards. Haven't seen a lot of procedural penalties. I mean, they're on time. They're ahead of schedule, if anything, and that definitely helps. Not to take away from the offensive line, but situationally, they're setting themselves up to look better.
It certainly helps. The very next play after that 2nd and 8 that I showed was a 3rd and 3, which with Mariota and the way they're running the ball and the way they're blocking for him gives you all kinds of options. Yeah. Okay, it's not just a passing down like it's been in the past. And on that 3rd and 3, the 49ers brought 4. The Falcons only left 5 in to protect. They sent 3 receivers out, and they flared a running back out. So I guess it probably would have been 4 receivers if I'm doing my math right. 4 receivers out, and they flared the running back out into the flats, and it ended up being a nice little drag route to Olamide Zaccheaus for a big gain. They left 5 back, and they blocked 4. That wasn't happening last year. Part of it's Bosa's out. That's a big, big difference. But the other big, big difference is Caleb McGarry's holding his water at right tackle. And up the middle, those guys, were able to take on 2 defensive tackles with 3 guys and win. And Jake Matthews was winning his one-on-one battle on the end. Big gain. So it's part of it's scheme. Part of it's, maybe it's the comfort in the scheme. Part of it is, hey, I'm on 1-year deals. Caleb McGarry's on a last year of his contract, and Eli Wilkinson's on a 1-year deal. But it's just been it's been mind-blowing how the difference from year to year for me and how much better they're going. And Sabir Adams comes in. The O-line coach is Dwayne Ledford. I'm gonna have to do some research on him, see where he's gone. Obviously, you've had some success if you're an offensive line coach in the NFL, but this offensive line from year to year is just. It's staggering, the difference to me. It really, really is. It's the main reason I picked this team to be 2-15 because they didn't get better on the O-line. Yeah, they did. Yeah. They did a lot better on the offensive line.
Yeah, and I mean, the big one is the right tackle has been playing positive. Now, I think on a couple plays here or there, I think he was responsible for one of the sacks and whatnot, but that's a really good 49ers team that's also trying to make plays out there. So sometimes that's going to happen. But overall, yeah, this offensive line has been clicking. Some of it also just to kind of, and we got Dave coming in and saying, what specifically is Coach P's doing in the second half of games? I think they just tightened down a bit. I'll wait for the data to come out to see how the coverage has changed. It's been a primarily cover 2 team with Scott, you're going to love this, the third most simulated pressures in NFL so far this season with how they're showing blitzes. And I think it should get even better.
They fake a blitz. We rename all these things to sound. I said it just sounds so pretentious. Oh, the off-ball linebacker is simulating pressure. You mean the middle linebacker is faking a blitz?
It depends what
they've
gap,
been doing that for 100 years.
Yeah, 100%. Not to go too far down a rabbit hole, but the body types have changed a tad and the responsibilities have changed a tad. So you have edge rushers who can drop in coverage like typical lead linebackers used to, and now you have linebackers who blitz with better body types for blitzing.
You ever heard of the zone blitz from the 80s?
I remember
what that was.
I know Dick
That
LeBeau.
was defensive tackles dropping off the line and playing inside linebacker.
Yes.
This hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is there's more media trying to sound smarter than they are. That's it.
You're going to give away all my secrets, Scott. It's coach speak, though. I got to say, the main person who really turned me on simulated pressures, Kirby Smart, knows a thing or two about defensive football. But I think it's more coach speak trick, and the media is adopting it versus what we used to call it. But what do you mean play action versus fake a handoff?
Blitz?
Yeah.
I thought about fake. Every time I start hearing about simulated pressure, I start thinking of Coach Klein and the water boy. He fakes to the left. No. He thinks about faking to the left. That's a simulated pressure. I don't know where I am. I don't know where I am. Anyway, Dave, I think also part of it is your rotation. The Falcons, especially on the defensive line, last year they had one good defensive lineman, Grady Jarrett. This year they've got 3, and then maybe a little bit depth, but some of it's your rotation. If you're looking at the guys coming in, there's been spurts in almost every game where the opposing offense has been able to do what they want to, and it happened in the second quarter. Underneath screen pass was all they had. It worked. You make an adjustment, and then when it comes nut crunching time, they've got in the package they want. Nick, you'll love this. One of the last plays of the game, and it may have been the last play that the 49ers had when they still had somewhat of a chance down to clock running down. He was back there in coverage, helping with a pass breakup. Rookie edge, Arnold Ebiketie, who's brought in, who you think, this is what he's in for, pass rush guy. He was back there in coverage, middle of the zone, and helping to break up a pass. It may have been intended for Samuel. I don't remember the intended target for sure. Probably was him or Kittle, but Ebiketie was back there in coverage and doing it very well. It's a rookie. This is a rookie edge in a Dean Pease scheme. I love it.
Yeah. No, rookies stood out in this game. Drake London had a couple big receptions that I recall. I remember one for sure. Only 13 attempts or 13 completions in this game, so not really going to be a high volume game in that regard. But hey, if it's working, that's great. When the offensive line is doing what they're doing, 150 rushing yards, you're winning the turnover battle.
Run the ball 40 times.
Yeah, I mean, if it's working, it's. I know all the EPAs and whatnot say a lot of the advanced statistics say passing the ball is much more efficient, but I also think there's some heavy selection bias in that because not every single team has Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen dropping back there, which is fine. But when those guys are doing it, yeah, of course the pass game is going to look better, but not. And then no offense to Marcus Mariota, but sometimes less is more. And I think I saw that the Falcons so far this season are 3-0 in games where Marcus Mariota has 15 or less passing attempts or something like that.
Like I said, it's unconventional.
Yeah.
It's an unconventional way to win games. But Nick, we've talked about this before. If you're going to run out there in a base dime, I'm going to run the ball. Yeah. The game is cyclical. I'm running out there in a 4-2-5 or a base nickel with a 3-man front. I'm going to run. You get light on me, I'm just going to run. And the other player, and I want to shout out Albert Knoppers coming on Facebook. Albert, appreciate you being here. Good morning, my friend. He says, good morning, everyone. I actually wrote like a haiku when I was writing. It was about Peyton Hillis. Y'all might remember Peyton Hillis. He might still be bouncing around the league, but he was one of the angriest, toughest running backs I ever saw in high school. He was just insane. I wrote a haiku like ode to the fullback, and I want to write another one for Keith Smith. Keith Smith, you've got guys that are bailing. When Keith Smith's come in their direction, they are bailing because he is absolutely lighting them up. The Pro Bowl is still taking fullbacks. I'm pretty sure they are. Keith Smith, first frickin' ballot. He has been so good as part of this running game as well. Love him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been a big part of it, and he's been great.
But that's what I mean, Nick.
Yeah,
If you're going to go light, I'm going to go heavy. You know, if you're the defense, the way things have changed, if you're gearing up to stop, you're coming out there in a nickel as your base front, I'm going to go heavy.
Yeah, 100%. You're getting a little choppy for me, Scott. I don't know if it's me or you on that end, but almost with how this team is set up right now, I know it's typically, I'd be highly against it, but the way this offense is set up, not really a high volume passing offense. I kept screaming about, adding another wide receiver option. Mm-hmm. This is an offense right now that's playing more max protect than any team in football with longer developing routes. And it works because the team's running the ball so efficiently that those play action max protect looks are getting guys open. When you have Kyle Pitts and Drake London running those routes, no problem. But my question would be, what do you think about maybe a big splash at the running back position this offseason? Just how I know paying running backs is scary, but if you can get one like on the Melvin Gordon special, like the Broncos got 2 years ago, it's just a 2-year deal, and you can pay him higher money up front. You're gonna have a lot of cash. I mean, I'm thinking about plugging in a top 5 running back into this offense, and what do you do then? I mean, God, I know it's scary to think about, but this is a really good running back free agent class coming up, and people don't want to pay these guys, so it's almost like you can take advantage of the market a bit.
But you were also showing I can be effective with a guy coming off the practice squad, and Huntley. So I think for me, I'd probably want to add another. If I'm looking at offense, the piece that I would want to get right now is I think you're right. Your gut reaction was right the first time.
The wide receiver.
I probably want to go a wide receiver. That said, I got to sew up right tackle. That's where, I can get another guard. I feel like Drew Dahlman's in his second year. Hopefully he'll keep improving. I'm sitting here. I've said for several weeks, I think he is, I hate to say weak link, but he is he's not as good as the other 4 around him. And that's okay. He's a second year guy, first year starter. Keep improving, kid.
Yeah.
And you've got a 1-year deal on left guard. You got a 1-year deal at right tackle. I'm almost to the point. Let's ante up and get Caleb McGarry, 3 years, 4 years, and sew that up. And you need another wide receiver. Drake London's a beast. He really is. You throw him, he's open. He knows how to use his body. He's got super long reach and hands like vice mitts. That he's really good. That will help open things up for Kyle Pitts. Olamide Zaccheaus is a good wide receiver 3. They need a wide receiver 2. And I don't really want to hear about Calvin Ridley. He doesn't fit with this team. He's just, it's not going to happen. I'll be happy when he comes and gets 1,000 yards receiving and is playing for this team again. I'll eat my words on that, but I don't think I'm going to have to.
Yeah. I mean, the area where it makes sense to probably invest capital is still the defense, even though they're playing well. This is still a defense that could use some horses on more horses in depth on all 3 levels. So that's right. That makes sense.
You need help at edge. You need another defensive lineman. You need another corner. Casey Hayward is, he's a short-term deal.
Yeah.
You need to. Isaiah Oliver played great. Shout out to Isaiah Oliver.
Yeah, he did.
Played really well. His first game back. Really physical in the slot.
I love him in the slot.
Good to have him back. Real quick, because we've got just a couple more minutes and we got to get out of here. Is this a playoff team? Running through. They're 3-3. They survived. We were talking Seahawks, Browns, Buccaneers, Rams, Saints. The early part of the schedule was tough. 3-3. Okay, we got at Bengals, Panthers, Chargers, Panthers, Bears, Commanders, Steelers, Saints coming up. There's not every one of those games is winnable. How many games did I just mention? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 4-3, 5-2 is not out of the freaking question.
I mean, this is a team that the schedule doesn't look too tough right now. I mean, you get to go. This might be a cop out, but if the Falcons can go into Cincinnati next week and beat the Bengals in Cincinnati, I'm going to say yes. But if they come in that game, it's a toss up to me because while the Falcons have played above expectation for me, the two of the games they've lost to have actually been teams that look like they've regressed tremendously
Right.
this season. Tampa Bay looks not very good
Mhm.
so far. I mean, losing to Pittsburgh, who got absolutely defecated on by the Bills the week before. I mean, that's sorry to be graphic, but I mean that was a horrible showing. And then they get beat by uh Pittsburgh.
The
I mean, I
Saints,
don't.
given the way
Yeah.
the Saints game hurt, giving
This,
that game
yeah.
away hurt.
Yep.
But the Bengals don't look as good as they did at the end of last year. You got the Saints
Yeah.
again. You're going to feel like you can beat the Saints, and frankly, you feel like you should sweep the Panthers. You're
Yep.
going to
So
have the
those are coming up.
Buccaneers at home, the Commanders and Steelers, Cardinals,
Ravens.
Ravens. I mean, you're 3-3. That's 11 games left.
Yep.
So 7-4 probably puts you in the playoffs. That'd be 10 wins.
And you got those two games coming up against you got the Bears and the Panthers. I mean, God, talk about the football god smiling upon you. Now, obviously, you have to play the game. You play to win the game, and there's no guarantees. But this is definitely a chance for this team. And yeah, Mark Turner saying this team gets better every game. I will say one thing also, you're really riding the high right now. There's going to be some game coming up this season where it's like, oh my God, this is the worst team ever. What happened? We've regressed. We're horrible.
It does. It
Matchups
goes
make
like
fights.
this.
Yep.
I agree,
Exactly.
but I do like I said, I think this team is really together as a team, and they're going to fight you. They're going to be in every single game. They are going to fight you. They're not going to win all of them. They can win. They're in a team that can't beat them, but there's not a
Panthers.
team that I feel like that's left that they can't beat. If things are going their way and whatnot. So that's a good place to be in, especially as I set the expectations, down below ground level. I said 2-15. Happy to eat those words. I love the way the offensive and defensive lines are playing, and those were my biggest concerns.
Yep.
Huge improvements. Abdullah Anderson, Taquan Graham. Speaking of most improved, I'd go Caleb McGarry, Taquan Graham as offensive and defensive most improved, and then from a position standpoint, your most improved position is left guard. You went from maybe the worst to getting plus at left guard. Good things.
Kind of drives me nuts because I was screaming for the Broncos to move Elijah Wilkinson full-time to guard for years when he was here, just because he didn't have the foot speed for the right tackle position against speed rushers. But glad to see he's landing and sticking on and doing well.
He is doing really well. Very, very pleased. And when he was out, Colby Gossett did a good job there. So again, we mentioned Sabir came in and had his name for me, Dwayne Ledford. I'm going to do a little bit more research, and we're gonna gas him up some. So we're gonna get out of here. We'll be back on Wednesday morning on our regularly scheduled 9:00 time. So looking forward to seeing you. Thanks for stopping in, everybody. I hope you have liked what you've seen with this team. I think you probably are pretty happy with what you're seeing. And goodness gracious, I'm looking forward to Terry Fontenot having a full offseason, a real offseason where he's not shopping in veteran, minimum contracts to try and fill holes. He can go out there and be very, very selective with some players, and it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, great team. Been enjoying these Falcons games much more than the Bronco games. So glad to be here and riding that win streak right now for 3-3. I mean, schedule sets nicely. Why not? I mean, why not this year, right?
Absolutely. So we appreciate everybody being here, and just want to say, give us a like, a subscribe, and a share on the way out, and we'll see you next time.